What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I wanted to make a video presenting the question, should you buy circuit breaks? So I wanted to do this video a little bit differently than I've done videos similar to this in the past, because I wanted to start off by presenting an objective overview of everything that's in circuit break, and then kind of delve into the pricing of some of the certain chase cards, because you guys know how much I love talking about that aspect. And then towards the end, I'm going to inject my own subjective opinion as to whether or not you should purchase this set or how you should go about doing it. But ultimately, however you guys want to spend your money is up to you. I just want to make sure that you guys are informed consumers and you know what you're buying before you do so. So starting off with, what exactly is in Circuit Break? Well, Circuit Break actually debuts 4 brand new archetypes, and they're all really cool for their own specific reasons. So, starting off, we've got Altergeists. Altergeists are a spellcaster-focused archetype that have a lot of good trap potential and the ability to get trap cards both into the hand and onto the field. Now, they are a little bit reliant on their normal summon, unfortunately, and they don't really have the capability of swarming the board. And so, you know, these weaknesses kind of, especially in the current meta, don't really make them a top tier contender, but I think in the future this is an archetype that definitely has potential because the cards standalone actually seem very strong, and so this is something you might want to keep your eye on, or if you just think the archetype is cool, because the artwork on these cards is really sick. Now moving on, there's also the Crawler archetype. Now ironically, the Crawler archetype is a bit of a slower archetype. Yeah, it has the ability to swarm the field, but it is a archetype comprised of insect flip effect monsters, and inherently, if a archetype is comprised of flip effect monsters, it's very rare that it's going to be, let's say, fast. I mean, yeah, we've had Shaddolls in the past, but Shaddolls function completely differently than how Crawlers function, and you know, they didn't exactly have El Shaddol Construct or anything like that. So I think it's a little bit different and kind of unfair to compare the two. So again, I think this is an archetype that, again, if you're interested in it, it's a cool archetype, but in terms of competitive viability, I don't see it. Then we have the Metaphys archetype. This is a really cool archetype solely because the archetype just pays homage to all of these older archetypes and boss monsters, and the archetype revolves around the monsters banishing themselves and banishing cards in general to generate a wide variety of effects, and the effects that are in this archetype are very vast. You can do a lot of really cool things with this archetype, but again, it's a very slow archetype. The cards, you know, on their own are okay, but in terms of, again, competitive viability, because that's what I'm choosing to focus on for the purposes of this video, it's just not there at the moment. Now, another really cool archetype and the last brand new archetype debuting in Circuit Break are the Rockets, formerly known as the Bullets or Bullets in the OCG. The Rockets are such a cool archetype, but they struggle with one major flaw. But before we get into that, for those of you guys who don't know, they're basically comprised of dragons, and they have effects that trigger when they destroy themselves, and the effects that they have are actually very solid effects. I mean, they have removal, they have all these different types of things, but their biggest and major flaw is the fact that a link monster has to target them in order for them to destroy themselves and initially trigger their effects. And that's so unfortunate, because it would be so much cooler if the archetype wasn't so reliant on such a heavy stipulation, that I think it would actually have a lot more viability if it wasn't restricted in that way. But unfortunately it is, and that's why I don't think, again, unless something changes in the future, it doesn't really have a ton of competitive viability. One archetype I did want to discuss is Vendreads, because Vendreads actually get some brand new support. They are, of course, our TCG exclusive archetype, and out of all the archetypes in this set, I know Vendreads aren't a brand new one by any means, but they actually get some really good support. They get a field spell that actually acts as a way to search them out of the deck. Sure, you have to discard a card, but I mean, it at least is something that's actually fairly decent. Then there's Vendread Chimera, which isn't the best Vendread card, but it's still pretty decent for what it is. And then there's a new monster and a new trap, which, again, they're fairly okay cards, and it still gives me some hope for the Vendread archetype in the future. It's not there yet, but I mean, you see where Spiral is now, and we were kind of making fun of it a year or two ago, so you know, anything is possible when it comes to a TCG exclusive archetype. So that really kind of wraps up the main bulk of what's in Circuit Break. You also have, you know, support for archetypes like Goki and Trickstar, and you've got legacy support for stuff like Fire Kings and things like that, but that's pretty much the majority of what's in the set. Now I want to move on to the chase cards, pretty much all the secret rares, because that's pretty much where, if you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, this is where you're attempting to either make your money back or trying to make yourself a profit. Currently, at the time of making this video, all of these prices are going pre-sneak peek, so expect these to change, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to account for that. Right now, if you look at the prices of some of these cards, there's cards like Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is without a doubt the chase secret rare of the set. Currently online, pre-sailing for about $65 to $70, which is just absurd. But again, this is pre-sale and this is also pre-sneak peek, so expect this to drop down maybe to $60, hell, maybe even to $50 once people start actually cracking opening packs and putting these online, because there's such a limited quantity at the moment that, as we've seen in the before, sneak peek is always the hypest of the hype when it comes to card prices, unless something just comes out of nowhere and shoots the price of that card back through the roof. Then there's also Borolo Dragon, which is in second place, currently pre-sailing for about $25 to $30. Now again, when sneak peeks happen and when the set officially releases a week later, you can probably expect the price of this to drop maybe down to like 20, around that range. Then you have Akashic Magician, currently sitting at around 15 to 20. Again, I'm seeing this maybe down to the 10 to 15 range once people start opening packs. And then surprisingly, you've got the Rocket, which the Rocket secret rares, which there's two of. There's Squib Draw and there's Quick Launch, both currently sitting at pre-sale for 15. And then also Vendread Chimera, as well as Overdone Burial, which are also sitting at 15 pre-sale as well. These are secrets that are not going to have a lot of high demand, and I see these going down to 10, maybe even below that once the set is officially open, because these cards don't really have a lot of desirability in the community. Chimera might be the exception, or anyone maybe wanting to try out the Rocket archetype, but especially with Overdone Burial, that card just doesn't really have any purpose at the moment, so that's going to be one of the cheapest secret rares of the set. But the cheapest secret rare currently is Fuse Line. Fuse Line is pre-sailing for about $5, and that kind of makes sense because Fuse Line is, let's just say it's a bulk secret rare. There's not really anything, you know, special about it. So once the set officially releases, this is probably going to go down even further, maybe to like $2 to $3, because this is just a pretty abomination of a secret rare. Now, in the ultra rare slot, the biggest thing I want to talk about is Spiral Double Helix, because Spiral Double Helix is currently pre-sailing for about $30, and keep in mind that this is an ultra rare, so that's absurd. And now, again, when sneak peek happens and when people start officially opening the set, the prices are going to come down. I'm expecting Double Helix to maybe go down to about the 20 range, maybe even 15 once it starts settling and there's a much more healthy supply available on the market. But you have to think, for an ultra rare, that's still a little bit insane, just because of the fact that Spiral is going to be one of the best decks coming up. The fact that an ultra rare is demanding that sort of price just blows my fucking mind. So definitely something you want to keep an eye on. And the biggest unknown that I want to throw into this is YCS Dallas, because YCS Dallas actually takes place the weekend when Circuit Break releases officially, which means that the prices of these cards, since it's just going to be released that weekend, have the possibility to be completely volatile and start just fluctuating all over the place, because of the fact that if Spirals have an insane representation in the top cut, you're going to see Double Helix go through the fucking roof, or if you see any of these other cards like Evenly Matched or anything like that have good showings, then their prices are going to go up after settling down a little bit after the initial hype of sneak peek. So that's also a big variable that you need to consider if you're wanting to purchase Circuit Break. Now, overall, what do I think when it comes to Circuit Break? Well, I'm always of the opinion that you should always buy singles. It's very rare that a set comes along that you're really getting your full money's worth, except for something like Legendary Dragon Dragon decks, because that was just a complete anomaly. But for the most part, you know, you have to get something. You have to realize that in a typical booster box, you're getting on average 2 secret rares and 4 ultra rares, and usually none of them are duplicates. So even if you pull 1 Spiral Double Helix and an evenly matched, and let's assume evenly matches at $50, and let's say Spiral Helix goes down to $20, those 2 cards combined make up the price of the booster box, which MSRP for around $65. But if you don't pull evenly matched out of your booster box, you're not really going to be making your money back, and you're actually going to lose money. This is why I'm always of the opinion that, you know, you should just buy the card you actually want, especially to just wait a few weeks, because the prices are really going to settle down, and then you can get the card you want. Like, if you want the Rocket archetype, just wait a couple weeks till after the set launches. The cards are going to be even cheaper now than during sneak peek hype time, and you'll be able to pick up all the archetype you want for maybe around the price of what you'd be paying for just a booster box in general, but you're actually getting the cards that you want. Now again, there is a risk to it, because again, with YCS Dallas being thrown into the mix, there could be cards like Double Helix and Evenly Matched, for instance, that might, you know, maybe double in price. I wouldn't say double, but I mean, they could go up exponentially by comparison to what you might be able to pick them up for at sneak peek, or maybe around the time of YCS Dallas taking place if you're not attending the event. That's a very big question mark when it comes to this, but ultimately, it's not worth the risk in the end. It's ultimately best, at least in my opinion, to buy the singles, get the cards that you actually are coveting, and that way you're not only getting the card you want, but you're saving yourself the most money. But guys, those are just my thoughts about Circuit Break as a whole. Let me down in the comments what you guys think about Circuit Break. What parts of Circuit Break are you most excited for? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video informative, consider backing me on Patreon, because just by pledging only $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time. 1, 2, 3.